Hey guys, Ruminating Reaper here. So yep, it's that time of the week. I'm outside the cinema, and it is the first weekend of May. So that can only mean one thing. Yep, summer movie season has begun. And of course, how else do you kick off summer movie season? Well, with an MCU movie. So about to head in to see Thunderbolts. I'm quite looking forward to this. Heard a lot of good things. The trailers for this have looked pretty interesting. So I'm hoping that this will be a real winner for Marvel, because in post Endgame, you take the wins where you can get them. But the only way to find out if this actually is a Marvel winner is to head in, get some snacks, and get seated for Thunderbolts. So yes, I've got my popcorn here and a red frozen Fanta. Well, Red Guardian is on the team after all, ready to watch this unlikely team of heroes. So yeah, Thunderbolts. I'm back from seeing it. This is directed by Jake Schreier, who previously worked on the Netflix show Beef. This is one that Marvel has apparently had a lot of confidence in. It's tested very well, apparently, and has seemingly had a very smooth production, the exact opposite of Brave New World. It's also worth noting that they thought they had a hit on their hands with Quantumania, so just bear that in mind. But even still, there was certainly an element of promise to this. I thought the trailers did look very good, looked to be a very entertaining time, and I think they need to prove that they can still deliver those crowd-pleasing experiences without, the multiverse or fan service nostalgia bait cameos. Especially with this being the end of Phase 5, I think they really needed to go out on a winner. But does Phase 5 go out with a bang or a whimper? Let's find out. So in the film, Yelena Belova, John Walker, aka US Agent, Ava Starr, aka Ghost, and Antonia Dreykov, aka Taskmaster, have all been set up to kill each other by Valentina Allegra de Fontaine as she attempts to clean house while under investigation. However, instead of killing each other, they reluctantly team up, and with the help of Yelena's adoptive father, Alexei Shostakov, aka the Red Guardian, the Winter Soldier himself, Bucky Barnes, and a mysterious loner named Bob, they form an unlikely team of heroes known as the Thunderbolts, which may just be what the Earth needs in the absence of the Avengers. So obviously, you're glancing at that premise and thinking, well, this is just Marvel doing their version of Suicide Squad, which is quite hilarious because DC tried to position Suicide Squad as their cinematic equivalent of Guardians of the Galaxy, so in a roundabout way, it's Marvel copying their own homework. But yet, as derivative as that may sound, it's easily one of the MCU's strongest offerings post-Endgame. It's a genuinely very, very strong film that plays very well with an audience. It's an absolute delight. Now, right off the bat, there is something that feels very different, and that is that this actually tackles some very serious ideas and themes. There's a lot of stuff around mental health, about things like isolation and emptiness, and past trauma and guilt, and how best to overcome these. Do we just bury them deep down, or do we actually shoulder that burden with others to take that weight off? It's surprisingly meaty stuff for a big budget comic book blockbuster, and like it actually handles these things with a certain level of seriousness and sincerity. It actually allows these serious themes and ideas to breathe. There's no undercutting it with a dumb quip. Although there are certainly quips and jokes to be had that are very funny, especially anytime Red Guardian is on screen. But rather than trying to ape the writing styles of like Joss Whedon or James Gunn, The film strikes a balance between the serious and the funny, and it works really well. Where the fuck has this been for like the entire MCU? I know. I think what makes this work is the very character driven story at its core. Like on the one hand, the heart of the film is Yelena, and obviously that's certainly quite the weight on anyone's shoulders, but Florence Pugh is incredibly reliable and she more than rises to the task. She very much sells that, that sort of depression and vulnerability that Yelena has, but also brings plenty of physicality as, she clearly does her own stunts here. Like, there's a scene early on where Yelena parachutes from the second tallest building in the world, and Florence actually did that herself. So she, is more than a capable action star, and it very much is keeping us invested in Yelena and her arc. And she's joined by a very much eclectic assortment. Obviously, you've got Wyatt Russell as back as John Walker, and yeah, much like in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he's great. Here, he's very much adopting this, very cocky, charismatic persona as a cover for, he's going through his own marital troubles. The two of them play very nicely off Hannah John Kamen's Ghost, who, obviously has a past doing terrible things, but also, has plenty of pain of her own, being that she was pretty much cooped up in, labs to, to stop her skin from disintegrating. They're all great. Taskmaster is here as well, I guess. David Harbour as Alexei, aka the Red Guardian, is great as well. Again, he's very, very funny, but also has this sort of serious arc wherein, he struggles with, being fulfilled, and sort of struggles with the fact that he was maybe a little bit of a neglectful father. And yeah, he sells it really well. And, obviously, Sebastian Stan, Academy Award nominee Sebastian Stan, is back as Bucky. He obviously, again, is atoning for his violent past, and, he's doing it the legitimate way by becoming a congressman. And, again, he does very much sell Bucky's quest to better himself very, very well. Yeah, everyone here is great. A notable standout is Lewis Pullman as Bob. Yeah, he is a great character, very, very interesting. And, Pullman really sells the weight of that arc and also gets in some funny moments of his own. Now, admittedly, it doesn't all work. There's this sort of subplot wherein, Valentina is under investigation and is trying to clear all evidence of her sort of shady actions. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus does do a very good job with sort of Valentina's shady side, and there's a whole thing with her assistant Mel, played by Geraldine Viswanathan, having a sort of crisis of faith. It doesn't really go anywhere, though. It's set up to do something very interesting, but never really goes anywhere, unfortunately. But that aside, it's a real, very much character-driven film, and the arcs that propel the narrative are super compelling to watch throughout. It's a smaller scale story, and it works really, really well. And it helps in making the action feel that, much more real, tangible. There's a lot of practical stunt work here on display. Again, aforementioned Florence Pugh parachuting off the second tallest building in the world. There's also, which itself is followed up by a great sort of old boy-esque moment. And there's a sort of convoy chase, and obviously the usual Marvel final act set piece, and some very well done, very grounded and tangible hand-to-hand fights. It is all very well done, and again, the emphasis on practical stunt work does make the stakes feel more real and yeah, tangible. But also, like, the CGI looks great. Like, this is genuinely the some of the best CGI that Marvel has had in quite a while. Like, there's explosions here that look very convincing, and the sort of, shadow effect of the void looks, really striking. Like, it's amazing what you can achieve when you actually let the visual effects artists do their thing and don't work them to the bone, sort of reworking stuff out of whim. Wow. And even the cinematography, which obviously, yes, does the usual Marvel grey thing, but I think in terms of the very grounded story, actually does work. And there's some very nice looking shots and some interesting uses of color we found as well. It does work really, really well overall. And then, of course, there's the final act, which obviously, yes, delivers the spectacle. It is a Marvel film after all. There's got to be a certain level of your epic scale spectacle, high stakes stuff. But rather than just being the usual crashy bashy, action figures smashing together stuff, it actually does something really, really interesting and handles it in a very character driven way that actually feels in service of the arcs of its cast rather than just, becoming, just visual noise. And ensures that the film ends on a very strong note, and actually, there's some real closure to be had here. Oh, and of course, you gotta stay for the credits, because, it's a Marvel movie, and yeah, the two extra scenes are well worth staying for. Overall, Thunderbolts is a real post-Endgame winner for Marvel. It's a refreshing change in tone and direction for the MCU, and I think it's exactly what the franchise needs. Let's hope it can keep up this winning streak in July with Fantastic Four. Out of 10, Thunderbolts gets an 8. So yeah, let me know down in the comments. Have you seen Thunderbolts? What did you think of it? Are you looking forward to seeing more of these characters? Because obviously it's been announced that yes, they are back in Doomsday. And do you think the MCU can actually deliver another winning, high-quality project like this? Let me know all that down in the comments. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're new. And don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload.